I wanted to look back on the post 2022 cycle that Deion was a part of. The then Power Five coaching hires in this cycle: Ryan Walters at Purdue, already fired.
Sure.
Zach Arnett at Mississippi State, already fired. Troy Taylor at Sacramento State, or coming over from Sacramento State to Stanford, my bad.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Already fired. We had Jeff Brom at Louisville, his alma mater, working out, doing really well.
Mm-hmm.
Scott Satterfield at Cincinnati, hot seat. Hugh Freeze at Auburn, hot seat. Brent Key, Georgia Tech, internal promotion that's working out really well for them so far. Mm-hmm. Luke Fickell, Wisconsin, awful start. One of the 5 worst contracts in college football right now. Kenny Dillingham, Arizona State, youngest Power 5 coach, and that hire is now looking incredibly smart. It's working out as well as anyone could have dreamed of in Tempe. Matt Rule, solid, but very expensive with what they're asking him to do. I bring that all up to say, all of these schools should have hired Deion. I do not believe all of these schools would have been set up for Deion to work, okay? Just like how I believe that if the Chicago Bears had drafted Patrick Mahomes, you all would not know Patrick Mahomes to be the quarterback that he is today. Sometimes where you end up matters, okay? Mm-hmm. And I'm not going to pretend that the Chicago Bears would have, he would have been still really good, and so much better than Trubisky in every possible way. And now I'm off on a different subject, and I don't want to go down that road, but you're welcome, football fans of the world, for not having the Chicago Bears draft Patrick Mahomes. Mm-hmm. Alignment needs to be there. And while a lot of people, I know Matt Hayes and I have gone back and forth about this, a lot of people have said Auburn should have hired Deion, and they should have been aligned with pursuing Deion. I don't think you could look at the dynamics there, even with hindsight, Will.
I'm sorry. Auburn should be aligned generally, dude. Look at what you just said about his boss at Colorado. Think about what Auburn University has ever had that. Auburn is a beautiful, amazing place. I love their fans. I love going to tubers. I love all that. But one thing Auburn has not been is we're going to cede all of the power to this one guy, unless it's like a Bruce Pearl situation or something where it's just it sounds like he got that basketball thing pretty well figured out. We're going to go mess some other stuff up. So of course, Deion would come in here and get in one fight with the Yellowwood guy and it would be over with, dude. No.
Yeah. Look, it's right place, right time.
Yeah.
Right place, right time. And I bring that up because I think Deion at the time was viewed as this Hail Mary for Colorado. And why not? Let's just chuck it downfield and see what happens. So many said either this will be unbelievable or it'll go horribly. And probably a lot more people were saying the latter. Where would Colorado be right now in 2025 if it had gone horribly? Ask yourself that. Hiring a new coach and getting back in line, that's where they would have been. And probably trying to take another swing. Yep. Just say, hey, maybe we can, now let's go a different route. Let's hire the Kenny Dillingham type, the early 30s guy who maybe he went to Colorado, or maybe he knows Boulder really well, or he's got some sort of connection to the state and kind of understands this place. I think this was viewed in such an extreme way at the time just because of the path. And I think it was easy to diminish some of the Jackson State stuff. I also think Deion learned what it was like to build something there that we can look back in hindsight. And I don't know if you ever watch any of the documentary type stuff that Dana Beers did with Barstool and stuff, and seeing some of the facility things that Deion had to bang the drum for and all the different kind of hurdles that he was trying to overcome at a place that obviously did not have the resources to just do whatever Deion wanted at all times. But just remember that, and remember that a guy who has built a program before, albeit in a limited sample size, probably had knew a thing or two about how to do it at a place like Colorado that was very much starting from scratch. And consider it another reason why Bill Belichick is in a very different spot and not really a fair comp to Deion, having never dealt with all those moving pieces at the college level and knowing what it takes to push the right buttons, fight those battles, have those conversations behind the scenes. Maybe Bill Belichick's going to figure it out, but he's going to have to figure it out on the fly in a way that Deion pretty much had to at Jackson State with a lot less eyeballs on him. I think Colorado's going to regress this year. I think that maybe, look, if they're a 6-win team, it's not going to surprise me at all. Who knows? Maybe they're going to go 5-7. They're going to be outside of the bowl picture, and people are going to be like, wow, they paid him all that money. He's making $11 million a year. Yet I would still argue that it's worth it because you do have to overpay at a place like that.
Yeah, and I'd say really quick, going back to your coaches exercise. I mean, yeah, I'd put him as it's him and Dillingham that are the best hires, right? And Dillingham, Arizona State, kind of similar to your point situation where they were in. I mean, it's two different animals because Arizona State has a huge fan base. They've been pretty solid at football, like historically. Not they just haven't been terrible, right? Like we've seen some of their success with like Osweiler and those boys, but
Sleeping Giant though is viewed more so as like if you talk to Arizona State people about that, that's kind of what they'll tell you is for a while it just felt like really untapped potential there, and it was viewed in those conversations of like, man, why isn't this place better? And it was always part of those conversations before Dillingham.
Because they hired Herm Edwards. I mean, that's the thing. That was their part of the crash out was that he had to go rebuild whoever was going to rebuild the Herm Edwards thing. And just to be honest, I mean, you weren't going to hire Deion after Herm Edwards anyway. Former NFL defensive back just messed up your whole program. If you hire another one, you're insane. It doesn't even matter how well that goes. Optically, that doesn't work. So point being, those are the two guys that I think are kind of head and shoulders above everyone else. And Matt Rule, I think, has done well, but I just think it's such a different animal coming to a place like Nebraska.
Yeah.
And it's about sustained success, right? I mean, Matt Rule came in and said, we're going to build this thing from the ground up. Give me a couple of years. Deion said, pack your bags or Louis. And so I think it's just a different animal. I mean, would I hire Deion over Matt Rule at Nebraska? Again, maybe not, just given the expectations of those fans that ran away Bo Pelini after the wins that he had. I don't think that having fans that are a little bit more entitled, I hate to say it that way, but like every SEC team almost has seen their team be great in the last 20 years. And so you have those expectations in the SEC that you wouldn't have in a place like Colorado. So we're used to that mentality. But I think especially for like a random, like look at what Mississippi State's doing with Levy, like that style of hire, I think is very different because the fan base is so excited to get this coach in and be, if it's a big name like Leach, like what they did with Leach, where it's like, oh my gosh, Leach is here. We're going to like whatever he needs versus, it's good to have a national title, if he goes to a place like Oklahoma. Right. So point being, I think that Deion is pretty clearly, like you look at that cycle, it wasn't a great cycle, but none of them ever are when we look back because guys get fired after 3 years. And now that we always talk about this NIL era, which I think is pretty heavily contributing to the HBCU thing not working, right? Because there's so much money now at the top. But we talk about this NIL era, how you want to have this CEO to represent your program. I think Colorado has a defined brand, and especially in the Big 12 conference, which is all a little bit of I hate to say it's all parlor tricks, but it's like a lot of the brands in the Big 12 are very like splash, look at me, like let's go do something that no one else is doing. And he's the best at that. So yeah, again, when you really look at it, when people say, should have never hired that guy, bad hire, go look at the cycle, look who's available. Because everybody thinks, oh, well, like my grandma knows someone who could call John Gruden and he could come be our coach. It's like, no, he wouldn't. That's never going to happen. So of the guys who were available, I think they knocked us out of the park. I don't really see how you could argue against it.
Yeah, I was kind of trying to look back on who in that cycle would have been really good to go all in with him. Like what's a program that actually would have made a little bit more sense, and Louisville probably would have been interesting. They've had some of those NIL stories that were coming out about them with NIL checks bouncing and stuff. Who knows what was going on behind the scenes there, but it's a little bit of a different thing to evaluate because Jeff Brom is at his alma mater, and that's a unique set of circumstances.
That's the thing. I just wrote him off in my mind. I was like, Jeff has his own, because he was fine before, but he wasn't going to leave for anywhere but there, so.
Exactly. And you could look at some of these other places and go, well, yeah, Georgia Tech. Why didn't a program like Georgia Tech want to make a plunge like that? It's like, well, they thought they had something really good with Brent Key, and Brent Key has turned out to be a really solid coach so far. And who knows, maybe there will be programs that say, in hindsight, we would have been aligned with the Deion experience, but those programs were just not lining up. Otherwise, Deion wouldn't have ended up at Colorado. It's as simple as that.